For everyone who is now here, thank you so much for coming out this Quo webinar, in which you can see we're going to be talking about turning your conversations that you're having with your customers and potential customers into insights with Quo and Claude together. I am your host and MC, so the presentation will not mostly be me today. We'll be joined by two experts, Daryna, who is the co-founder of Quo, and Chris Sands, who is the CEO of Hannon De Palma and Associates. These are two people who know quite a bit about using Quo with Claude. Now, just so you know about me, Richard, I'm not just an MC for events here. You may have seen me if you've ever seen the After Hours newsletter. I do write most of those, but I want to get away from doing so because I want to share more insights than just my own in these things. And so we had our very first one that wasn't me this past month, which you may have seen. It was Chris Sands, who was one of our speakers here and just a great customer of Quo. So let's just very quickly, very briefly introduce Quo and Claude for those who may not know one or the other, and then we're going to hand things off to Daryna so you can show off some stuff you can do right away with the two tools together. So let me go to the next slide. Hey, agenda. Why Quo plus Claude? This is my very brief session. Then Daryna is going to give us a live demo, and then Chris is going to walk through some things that he's doing, and then we'll have a live Q&A at the end. And as I mentioned this live Q&A, I do want to note, please, there is a Q&A button in Zoom and that you can use to ask questions. Any questions that you want to make sure we see and answer, either now or if there's 1,000 of them later after the event, if we don't have the time to get through all of them. Please use that Q&A button because I want to make sure that it's highlighted and seen as something for us to answer. Otherwise, conversational stuff and smaller stuff you can keep in the chat. So use that there. Also, just so you know, this is being recorded. So if you see something in here that you really like and you want to come back to it or you want to share it with someone else on your team or in your company, this will be available to you tomorrow. We'll send out a link to the recording. So first, most of you already know, but what is Quo? Well, I've written here on this slide, we're the modern business phone system that brings calls, texts, and customer information together in one AI-enhanced platform. That's us. Some things about us, there are 90,000 plus businesses on Quo with all their various employees in there working on things. We have handled over 1 billion calls and messages for our customers that have been sent and come into them. And we're ranked #1 in customer satisfaction on G2 for voice over IP and business phone systems with a 4.7 star rating. Now, what is Claude? Claude, of course, is an AI assistant. It's built by a company called Anthropic, which is in San Francisco, much like Quo. It is here to obviously help you get more things done, as we're going to see in today's presentation. One of the things it can do is connect to a tool like Quo and other integrations that they have, where it can act as an expert level assistant to dig in and get information that you can use, like say, looking at transcripts from calls and seeing what the trends are there, where you can improve on things from conversations that you've had. There are, if you go into Claude and you've used it a little bit or not used it before, you'll see there are three different things you can use in there. You have Claude Chat, and I asked Claude actually to describe each of these things for me because I wanted to see what Claude had to say for itself. With Claude Chat, it's the most basic thing. It's good for brainstorming, writing first drafts of things. I have some notes that Claude gave me over here. It's going to be good for analyzing files you give it or talking things through. On the other far side, you have Claude Code, which is much more like a software developer sort of in your hand or on your computer that you can access to do a lot of more complex things with the actual code that you're building things with. And then there's this nice little section in the middle called Claude Cowork, which brings some aspects of chat and some aspects of code and brings them together where you can ask Claude to do things in the background for you, to work on tasks for you while you go and do something else while it does that. So we're going to be looking a lot at stuff with Claude Cowork as we get into Daryna's demo. Also, you should note that this isn't just sort of an off-the-cuff presentation we're doing here. We are an official Claude connector. And so that means that you're really able to use Claude to get into doing things with Quo with no coding, no AP. You don't have to access our APIs or anything overly fancy there. There's no real setup. You just go in, activate it from your settings in Quo, and you're on your way. You can do the things that we're going to see today. I also want to note one more thing that we've been trending in the Claude directory. Obviously, we launched recently. There's a lot of stuff constantly coming out on here, so where we trend will vary. But hopefully, some of you folks going out to use us today will help us continue to trend in this directory. But that is the end of my introduction. So let's hand things off to Daryna, who is the co-founder and COO of Quo. So Daryna, would you like to come up here on stage and show your demo?
Thank you so much for having me, for the intro, Richard. I'm so excited to be here. I'm just assuming you guys can see me and hear me okay. the usual, webinar kind of intro. Listen, I like to say that every Quo feature is my favorite, but this actually might be my favorite one in a while. So I'm just so excited to show you what's possible when you connect Quo with Claude, which I would say the biggest thing for me personally is the fact that your conversation data has so many insights that are just hidden that you probably just don't tap into. And with this connection, you can now learn so much about your business, and it does not take that much work to get these insights, as you can see. So hopefully, as we wrap up this session, you'll be able to take away not just concepts, but like very tangible things you can do right away to learn what's happening in your business, what's happening in your customer conversations. Now, to start, I will be doing a live demo, so wish me luck. This is usually kind of how it goes. And I will start from easy to more advanced workflows that you can do right away using Quo and Claude. So let me share my screen and we're going to get into it. So I think Richard will let me share my computer. Oh, here we are. Thank you so much. All right. I'll be showing my Claude instance to start. So first things first, I want to make sure that all of you know how to get started. And also just before we get into that, as Richard mentioned, co-work, as you can see, is the...
If I could stop you, Daryna.
Yes.
When I allowed you to share, it didn't actually share.
Oh, okay.
So now if you share again, your screen should come up. For some reason, it overrode things with my screen.
No
All technical
worries.
issues that we see here today, folks, are my fault. So please lay the blame at me. Daryna, please share away.
All
You'll
good.
be on your
You
way.
all know this is live, right? This is how you know it's not pre-made or anything. Okay. I'm assuming we're good, right? Okay. You guys can see my screen. I know how this is like the usual. Okay, you love it live. I love it live. I think I like to live on the edge, right? So let's get into it. As Richard mentioned, chat, co-work, and code. Co-work is amazing. I think that more people should be using co-work. You can do a lot of these things using chat, but you'll see how much more powerful co-work is. To get started, so first of all, I obviously have our connector connected, but just to show you, you can browse connectors if you don't have it set up yet and just type Quo. It is very nice that we have a short name, so just three letters, and you'll be able to go in and connect. So super easy. You'll be able to log into your Quo workspace and give Claude access to it. But I already did that. So let's get into the good stuff. So we will just start from a fairly basic prompt here, which I'm going to quickly move over. So what I am doing here, because I already have the connector set up, what I'm doing is I'm asking it to look at the last 15 calls on my inbound sales phone number. And I want to see a summary of different themes. Now, whatever I'm showing you here is very close to the real data, but it is not customer data. It is fake, right? I'm sure you understand, you all are customers. We're not going to be sharing your data. So we are now going in and fetching 15 call transcripts from the last 15 calls on this number. And we're going to be seeing trends. So let's give it a moment. As you can see, it's fetching the transcripts, and you'll be able to sort of build on that. A little bit of patience is nice here, especially as I said, we opted for a live demo, but let's give it a moment. One thing to note is that as I show you different workflows, you'll be able to set up recurring tasks. So you don't have to every morning like get in and wait for data. Data will come to you versus you waiting for it, which I'm sure all of you appreciate, right? So let's see what it comes back with. Here we are. All right. So this is like the starting point. It gets more interesting. So it looks at the calls. It told me various insights, like I think some of you may understand coming to Quo after using a personal phone number. It is a chaos for sure. We're seeing trends of people coming in from healthcare. We're seeing people saying appointment reminder automation is a huge value prop. So this is pretty straightforward, right? Instead of me listening to those 15 calls, I just get like a nice snapshot. And of course, you can make it 50 calls, etc. I always like to say that as a manager, as a leader, you don't have time to listen to 50 calls a day, but Claude does, and it can do it for you and give you insights delivered. So this is great. Now, let's get into more interesting stuff. So I really love the prompt, which is the following. I want to just talk to it and say, hey, listen, are there any prospects who mentioned pricing concerns and didn't convert? Or I would actually say, are there any prospects who mentioned any kind of concerns and did not convert? So I'm sure that you want to know what's not working. I'm sure you also want to know what is working, but you're probably going to say, listen, are we losing people in the funnel? Is there a reason why people are not moving forward? And this is like a very simple prompt to get into that. And of course, we're getting the answer. We're already seeing examples where there is competitor comparison that maybe should have been stronger. There is someone who is still shopping around. So perhaps they are just taking more time. They're not convinced, right? So we probably could have done a better job kind of like giving them the information they need faster and presenting it in a better way. You can see other things like, well, I need partner buy-in. Great. That is an objection we need to handle, right? So you can kind of see, various patterns from your calls. And I know that from talking to a lot of folks that before this, like they would just typically not know what's actually happening in their customer conversations. And this is such an easy way to tap into that. So as you can see, this is like getting a little bit more interesting, but we're going to get even more interesting. So I will actually want to know, are there examples of times when reps effectively overcame objections? Because really what I want to know is I want to see who on the team is doing a very good job overcoming objections and how we can take those success stories, and then turn those into maybe training materials or SOPs and train others. I feel like it's like a very easy way to start building those training materials for your team, right? And as you can see, there is a very nice example here related to HIPAA. There is another example related to price comparison with a competitor. More examples, price surprise. So you really sort of, you can really see how you can tap into these examples and train the rest of your team to do what these folks did really well. I see there are like things in the chat. I'm going to open just for a second to see if everything is cool, what were the top 5 objections this week, and we can develop some better ways to handle them. That's a good one. I just see Jimmy. Yes, you can totally do that, right? Like, what were the 5 top objections maybe that we were able to successfully overcome, and like objections that we were not able to successfully overcome? That's a very great way to fine tune it. You can probably fine tune everything I'm doing and get better results. Obviously, this is as powerful as you make it. So take whatever I'm showing you and think about how you can customize it for your business. But we're not going to stop here. I have several more things to show you. So this is, I think, where the magic starts. So what I will do here is something that you can only do in Cowork. So this is where Cowork becomes important. I'm going to say, listen, I'm going to upload a scorecard, and I want you to score the last 10 calls against the scorecard. Could you help me with that? And spoiler, Claude will say yes. It's usually very eager, very enthusiastic. So I'm going to now add a scorecard, and I'll tell you about the scorecard and sort of like how did I come up with it and what this whole thing is. So I have a scorecard here, a markdown file that I basically created with Claude. And the good thing about the scorecard, by the way, I'll be sending it to everyone. You guys will all have it, is that it's not just like a generic scorecard. It's a scorecard designed to adapt to different business models and to different types of calls, right? So for our example here, we are a software SaaS company. So I'm going to select software. But when you use it, if you are a home services business, you can just say, nope, I'm home services, or maybe professional services, etc. So you can say, no, we are something else, right? So this scorecard is made to adapt to different industries and different call types. So I'm going to say software because that is us. It might ask me something else. Let's see. But yes, all of these resources we will share, so you can just get going. And another thing that we will share is a plugin that you can use to basically just do all of this, to have Claude do all of this for you, which I know kind of defeats the purpose of the webinar. You could technically just use the plugin and not listen to us, but I wanted to make sure you have like things to get started. Okay, so it's going to be thinking a bit. This is like a bit more sophisticated, right? Because there is a scorecard, so we need to take the calls, we need to run them through the scorecard specifically for software/SaaS, and then we will get the result. But yeah, I think this is where I think the fun begins here. So while we're waiting a little bit, I'm going to open the chat and see what questions you have or what's going on here. Are you able to connect to multiple profiles of Quo? I think I saw your comment before. You can only connect to one workspace at a time. So unfortunately, just one workspace at a time. Let's see what else is here. I'm already using this component. It's incredible. I agree. I'm assuming this was you're referring to some of the things I'm showing you. I love it. I love hearing that. Claude is better than Gemini and ChatGPT. Claude is great. I mean, we love them all, but personally, I think Claude is great. What else? Can you answer some of the questions in the Q&A? Absolutely, I can. Let me go. Let me get in there. Let me get into the Q&A tab and see what's happening there. All right. Cool. Oh man, there are a lot of questions. I love this. Will this work with Claude that is used within an aggregated AI chat engine? I would love, so Carlos, if you can maybe share more in the chat or something on this. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. This works, so just to be clear, this works with Claude. This works actually as of last night with ChatGPT. We officially got approved as an app in ChatGPT. But also you can use our MCP server with basically any with any AI assistant that allows you to create a custom connector. So this actually should work with most things, really. But in Claude, we are accepted as an official connector, so obviously that makes it easier. I'll take one more question, and then you see our results are done. What would be the best way to leverage this connection as a CRM to a service company if we don't really have a CRM set up yet? So I think a lot of things we're showing here, you don't necessarily even need a CRM. I think there's so much that Quo gives you that obviously we have rich contacts, contact templates. We have all of this insight that you can now tap into. So I guess my question would be, what do you need a CRM for? I know it's hard to answer some of these questions without a back and forth, but yeah, I don't see how a CRM is a prerequisite to getting all of this insight here. All right, people, you guys have questions, keep them coming, please. But I want to show you what we got, right? So, of course, we scored all 10 calls against this rubric. And the other thing that this rubric did, by the way, it didn't just, as I can imagine, a lot of you get calls that could be sales calls, but sometimes like a support call gets in there, and it's not fair to evaluate a support call based on the sales rubric. So another thing that this rubric does, it actually identifies, is it a sales call or is it a support call? So that's actually a very, very helpful thing. So look, it looked at every single call. It scored like the opening, the discovery, the matched offering, are the answers accurate, the efficiency, how quickly did we get to the right answer? Was there a next step? I mean, I think next step is essential, right? Because for sales, for intake calls, if you don't have a next step, like what are you doing? So you can see that it did such a great job kind of going through all the calls, and it provided some coaching flags, which I love, because you can now have specific feedback for team members to say, hey, like we could do this better next time. How can we improve it next time? And there's of course observations that are just sort of like general observations based on your call volume. Now, again, I'm doing this for 10 calls here because I want to show you something quickly, but you can do this for a lot more calls, of course. Now, the final thing I want to show you, and then Chris will be joining to show his workflows, is what I would consider the final kind of like magic. So the thing is that keep in mind, right? You can modify this. You can ask for this report to be what you want it to be, right? Like maybe you have your own rubric. So don't use what I'm giving you. Upload your own, right? You can customize it and just chat with Claude and say, hey, I need this customized. But here is the final piece. The final piece is that we want to turn this into a recurring weekly report. And that's, I think, what's so important, right? Using CoWork, you can have tasks that are scheduled. And this way, I'm not asking for data, I'm receiving data. And the way that we use it, right? We put it in Notion, we put it in Slack, we put it everywhere. So when should we run this report? I think Monday morning. Monday morning I think is great. I will just say Slack and Notion because we have those already connected, but you could also put it to just be delivered through CoWork, right? So it's whatever you would like. I will just, I have a channel just for this. Feedback. Of course, you can kind of modify this. And then ask me to, sure. I can always change that. So basically at this point, this is like the final piece. It will turn whatever we did up there into a recurring task, and it will live here in scheduled tasks. I have some of my scheduled tasks here already. And yeah, it will be delivered to me versus me having to go for it, which I think is super, super important. I will pause here. I can always show you guys more things, but I'm looking at the time. I know Chris has great content. As I mentioned, we have Q&A. We'll try to answer all the questions. But yeah, I really would love to know. I hope this is helpful. I'm also Daryna at Quo.com. If you have specific questions for me, always happy to connect and see what you're doing. I will leave at this point. Thanks so much.
And I'll jump on. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Sands. I'm the CEO of Hannon De Palma. We are a family law firm in 3 states, New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. Just give me 1 second while I share my screen here. And I'll just assume everybody can see this unless I see in the chat somebody say no. Okay, great. So a little about me. I am Quo's #1 fan unofficially. I'm working on a petition to make that official so everybody can sign that after the webinar. But all kidding aside, we've been using Quo since it was open phone 4 or so years ago. And what it allows us to do is punch above our weight class. We were a small-ish a law firm at the time. We're now just shy of 20 people. We were one state and one salesperson, and we've just grown exponentially. And a lot of that is because we're using Quo and their workflows. And even before Claude was available as a connector, it solved a lot of our scaling problems. Here's a picture of our fearless leader, Shireen, on the left in red. She's also on this webinar, so hi, Shireen. And this is our Cinco de Mayo party and a couple of our client liaisons and our intake person in the middle. And the person in white, that's Karen. She's one of our top salespeople. And we'll talk about her a little bit in this presentation, so just remember that face. So why listen to this? When we found Quo, we were, like I said, one state, mostly based in Westchester County, and that's our home base. And we were processing 5 to 10 new leads a day. Now we're processing 30 to 50 across 3 states. And that was only because we picked early on a phone system that could support us, that we could have really open integrations and a scale with technology, smart technology. So we made a bet on Quo early on, and it's really led to exceptional results. And one of the surprising things that we took on as a project was when we first were, before we were on Quo, our speed to lead was very slow over the weekends. Okay, so our intake team would go home Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. And if somebody filled out a form on our website, it might be 10 a.m. on Monday before they got somebody on the phone with them. Now, if you're in a service business, maybe you're, say, a HVAC and your customer's air conditioning goes out and they live in Florida. They want a response right away, right? They don't want to wait 65 hours until Monday morning at 10 a.m. Now we're down to 90 seconds. They get a text immediately from the CEO line. They get a call within 90 seconds, and that's helped us scale exponentially. That's all before Claude was introduced. So now Claude is able to give us superpowers. So I'm going to talk about 4 skills today that we're using. The team at Quo asked me to put together a set of skills, and I tried to fit them all in, and it would have taken 12 hours to show you all the things we're using with Quo and Claude. I had to pare it down to 10 minutes, so I'm going to take you through 4, and the 2 advanced ones at the end. You'll start to see how advanced is not that far away from simple. Even non-technical people can build very advanced workflows without an engineer, just by asking the right questions. The first one, Daryna's already talked a lot about this one, getting insights from active conversations that you're having. We record every sales call. We don't record any attorney calls or paralegal calls or anything due to client confidentiality, but at the sales process, we do record the calls, and we're able to produce a report of all the sales conversations every day that happened on our client liaison lines. So we're able to hand that to the head of our sales department, and they're able to monitor what's going on without having to check person by person across the 3 salespeople we now have. And then going further, she showed how you can analyze larger sets of data. We took on a project only less than a week ago, I think, maybe 10 days ago, where I said, I wonder how far I can push this. When we first got the connector and we were messing around with it, I said, I want you to analyze all of the transcripts from Karen's liaison line to see why she's so effective. And then Claude came back and said, how many Quo transcripts do you want me to pull? And I said, I don't know, it's up to you. It pulled 410, okay, across 6 or 7 months. And then it used that to synthesize patterns that Claude determined were effective patterns based on who converted, who wanted follow-up calls. and also ineffective patterns, things not to say that led to no conversion. 410 transcripts analyzed in less than 15 minutes, created this beautiful report that we can hand to our other 2 salespeople and future salespeople. A massive data set that would have taken months. Okay, so that's the simple version. Analytics, reports, analyzing things. Now we want to take some actions. And so the next 2 skills are a little bit more advanced. So we're in a service business, and one of the effective sales tools we have is generating a proposal for people the moment they get off a sales call. Helps keep them connected to us, and it's a way to go back to them and have a follow-up call. So first thing I did is I just went to Claude again, and I said, can you create a Microsoft Word document with all the facts for Maria that she told us during her sales call on Karen's Quo line? So it did that. It went out and it produced, this is not a real client, by the way. So again, PII, we're using fake data, but it produced a report just like this instantly within 5 minutes. Microsoft Word, it was 6 to 7 pages long. And all that's in here really is the facts that Maria told us about her family law case. Her names of her children, the name of her dog, how much money she makes a year and her husband makes, where their house is, and put it into a gorgeous, Microsoft Word document that we could send to Maria right after the call within an hour. We delay it a little bit to give the appearance that we're like working really hard on this, but it really gives it to us right away. We could send it within 60 seconds probably. Now we took it a step further because we then wanted to let me actually just stop and go over the impact of this. So the impact of creating a proposal right away, if you're in a service business or maybe B2B even, you're used to creating proposals to send to potential clients. It may be somebody's full-time job to do that. In a lot of companies, somebody is the proposal person. Now Claude is the proposal person, and we didn't have a proposal person. We didn't have this process. We didn't have enough proposals to generate to hire somebody full-time to do this, so we automated. And the impact of this is the person stops shopping around, potentially, because they feel like they've been heard. Now they've got 6 or 7 pages in their hands of the story of their life, and they don't want to repeat that to somebody else. They know we've heard them. They already feel like they're a client in a way, even though they haven't paid us yet. Payment kind of becomes a formality. They see that we have a file on them already started, and we've got the details, and they actually walk away from the sales call with real value. So they come off of a client liaison call, and they've got a kind of a blueprint of their life already generated. And going into the case, once they do hire us, this report then gets turned over to the attorney, and the attorney doesn't have to re-ask all these questions over again. So I'm going to go through how we set this up, and I'm going to do it pretty fast because I don't want to cut into the QA time. Daryna showed a bunch of ways to use co-work. I'm going to show you how to use projects. So in Claude, you would click on projects, and what a project is a container where you can give an agent specific instructions that it'll follow every time, including a template of how you want the report to come out. Create a new project, call it proposal generator. I turned on visibility for Hannon De Palma so everybody can share this skill, which is also crucial for us. So now everybody can access this. You'll get this screen that says proposal generator. And on the right side, you'll see there's a blank for files. In that section, you're going to upload 2 files. And if you need help creating these files, ask Claude to help you do that. That's what I did. Agent instructions, including in those instructions, don't give any legal advice, was one of our instructions. So full instructions, how to synthesize the data, what to say, and then the template for the proposal. Follow this template exactly every time, make it look exactly like this. Now, this project is sort of a live program that you can distribute to people, train them how to use it, and all you need to do is say, run a report for Maria. It will then follow all these instructions in the markdown, generate the proposal, and the best part is that Maria's report will now live forever inside this project chat. And if she ever has a second or third or fourth call, you can go back into that same chat and say, can you update the report with the newest transcript from her latest call? And you'll get a version 2 of the report, a version 3. So you can keep sending it to the client, keep forwarding the conversation, keep capturing all the necessary data to make the file complete. The last thing I want to talk about is how Claude becomes a connector of multiple systems. So now we know you can connect Quo to Claude, but then you can connect Claude to other systems like we did. Airtable is our customer records, 21,500 leads in an Airtable database. And then also Slack, we've connected it to Slack. So Claude's now connected to all these systems, which means Quo is now also connected to all these systems, Airtable and Slack, which allows us to do something like this. Look in Airtable, find all the leads with a status booked consult, send them a Quo SMS asking them to fill out an intake form, and then send me a Slack message with a list of the people you just texted. So really quickly, you can see how without any programming, without an engineer, everybody can become a builder in your company as long as they can talk to Claude and figure out kind of what they want to connect together. And a bonus skill here, I won't go too much into this one, but you can then use Quo transcripts, pull in information about what just happened, and also update your CRM, whichever CRM you have. As long as you can connect it to an API or to Claude, now you're updating the customer records over and over again. And so the most up-to-date information is there. And now the result is we can finally keep up with real volume. We can scale to new states and new cities without having to worry about how we're going to handle the demand.
Fantastic, fantastic stuff. Thank you so much, Chris, for that great presentation. We are now going to go into Q&A. So Daryna, if you'd like to come back up here, I'm going to just share a little slide that says Q&A on it so that we all know officially that's what's happening. Let me pull it up. There it is. And let me hit the button. That will share that. Let me just walk you through everything I'm doing while I do it. Okay. Where did you go?
Can I start with the spiciest question? I love the spiciest questions. Okay.
The slide's officially up, so you can officially answer.
I love it. Question. I love it. So if I click answer live, by the way, does that, let's see what happens. Does that like pull it up here? Or no? Okay. I'm learning here. So I'll read it. There is a question from David, which is, I guess I do not understand why Quo wouldn't just build some standard reports and let users put their LLM API token in. This seems like one-off questions rather than being a scalable tool. Well, what if I told you that we're working on things? Obviously, we deeply believe in giving you insights. So we will do it in many different ways. There are benefits to getting this information directly in Quo. There are reasons why you still might want to use it in context of what you're doing in Claude. So stay tuned is all I will tell you. But yes, appreciate the question. Let's take another one. Well, there are many. So let's see. Oh man, it's hard to pick because I actually like spicy questions. Not to encourage you for anything crazy, but okay. Let's just see. Is this connection from Jessica? Is this connection more important for sales phone calls? Sales in the business I work for is happening in the field, so the sale isn't being recorded, happening on the phone. Wondering how this connection would be helpful when our main office line is primarily for people booking estimate appointments or questions from current customers. That is a really great point, Jessica. I mean, yeah, right now this works for any calls that you have the transcripts for in Quo. So we don't currently have a super easy solution for you to just record what's happening in the field, unless, of course, I guess like your team is capturing that. My follow-up would be how is that being captured? But yes, all of this works for the data you currently have in Quo. So I think that's that would be my answer. But as we grow, we want to tap into more things. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. Chris, please
Yeah,
join.
let me just say, I just want to say something about that. So one of the things I left off of the presentation here was if you're getting a lot of customer questions on that are from current customers, you can harvest that data also and create, what are the most common customer questions you get across all of the conversations over the last 6 months, and then use that to generate social media content, videos, blog posts, and know what people are actually asking without having to listen to every transcript. And you'll see, okay, so this question gets asked 75% of the time. Maybe we should put that in the onboarding document so that they have the answer right away, or whatever decision you make about that.
Totally. Yeah, I saw the question and I see something in the chat about whether this works with Sona. So any transcripts, this works with any transcripts on your phone number. So all your Sona calls are automatically recorded and transcribed. So it should work there as well. So I guess I don't know where I saw this question somewhere. There you go. Let's see. Okay. Oh man, it's hard to choose. Maybe next time someone else has to pick the questions because I want to answer everything. I guess question from Hillary, and someone maybe help me out here. What's the difference between setting up a routine in Claude Code versus a scheduled task? Well, scheduled task can be done on Cowork, and I demoed that because I think it's like fairly accessible and sort of easy. I think more people use Cowork than Code. So that's why I sort of demoed that, but you probably can do the same using routines in Claude Code. I haven't myself used routines, so don't have personal experience, but maybe you can try and let us know. It's kind of crazy, right? Because there's so much change happening, and Anthropic is releasing new things all the time, so it's sometimes hard to keep up with all their products. But I just thought the Cowork experience was very easy, so that's why I demoed that. Question from Amy. Do you need customer consent before you can do this from a privacy perspective? Customer calls us and we need to inform that the call is recorded and shared with Claude for training purposes. So first of all, I mean, if all your calls are being recorded, as you know, you have a setting in Quo that will just tell people the call is being recorded. And yes, you can, I think people just assume that it's all done for training and quality purposes. I think that based on your industry and sort of like regulatory landscape in your industry, you may also need to do something special for Claude, but I guess it depends. But what we allow you to do is just make it very easy to let all your customers know that calls are being recorded. So at least that portion is covered. Let's see. What else is here? What is the maximum number of calls that the MCP API will pull? Can you do month-over-month analysis? You can definitely do month-over-month analysis, weekly. I mean, you can do a daily, kind of like at any cadence that you'd like. In terms of how many calls it pulls at a time, it depends on the length of the call because not every call is equal, right? You can have a 2-minute call versus an hour-long call. So I'm not sure I can give you an answer on that. But what I have seen, and we have workspaces with so much data, I am just sometimes like being patient and saying, just load more, and it takes longer, but I think you can go deeper in your data than maybe you think. So, okay. What else can we answer here? Can you run it side by side with Opus 4.7? Show us the difference. Good question. I'm afraid we're not going to have time to do that, but I guess I would encourage you to try it. And yeah, I think that yeah, it's an idea for next time, just seeing the difference between different models. Now that we also, by the way, now that we are live as an app, on the ChatGPT app store, or I don't know how they call it, directory. It's also interesting to see the difference there, taking the same transcripts and seeing the insights there compared to Claude. Chris?
Yeah, just a really quick note on Opus. If you're looking to set this up, Opus is really good at helping you figure out the workflow. It's a little bit more expensive, but Opus will design the system for you. And then Sonnet is great at following the instructions. Both are really good at pulling out. We've used Sonnet to synthesize our transcripts. It works really well, and it's not expensive. The other thing is about privacy. If you're concerned about privacy, which most of us are when it comes to LLMs, large language models, just make sure you're in a team account on Claude, and you can go into the settings and switch that little slider that says, don't share my information for training the public LLM models, and you're good to go.
I love that. That's a great point, Chris. This is why we have you here. That's why we have you here. It's a great point. I will answer a couple of questions I see in the chat that I thought were interesting. Kimberly is asking, what if you are primarily text-based business? So that's great. You can fetch all your text messages. I think that we like to demo the calls use case because maybe it's a bit more impressive, right? Because it is really hard to listen to 50 calls a day. It's probably impossible. So I think that's why we demo it, but you can totally do this with all your conversation data like text messages. There was another question I saw. Well, maybe just a fun one. Did it take you a long time to build this MCP integration? Did Anthropic make it easy to work with them from Axel? Well, we had our MCP server built a while ago. We also had this in beta for a while. So I think there was a lot that we did before I even touched sort of like Anthropic. If you're talking about the approval process, it did take a while because I think those guys are very busy with a lot of connectors going up live. So that took a while, but actually building it is something we did independently long time ago. Can Claude send text messages on your behalf with a connector? Yes, it can. Anthony, good question. As a follow-up, you would be using our API, so there is additional cost per segment, which makes sense because you could send technically thousands and millions of messages, and we don't want to be out of business, right? So we charge you per segment when you send messages programmatically. But yes, you can do it, of course. I really enjoyed Chris's presentation. Will those skills be available for us to browse after the webinar? Absolutely. We will share everything. I think Richard is going to put together a very nice email for all of you to receive in terms of, all the resources, everything that we mentioned. Maybe someone can help me out. What other questions should we answer? I feel like we've answered many. But yes, let's see.
I don't know how helpful I'll be, but I was going to say, I saw Nadine mentioned several times, does Quo Claude know what I'm doing on my Claude app? And Claude is Claude. Quo doesn't know what you're doing in Claude, no matter what you're doing, unless it's something where you're requesting something from Quo. And we see that, of course, but we don't know what you're doing in your Claude app, but Claude will know what you've done. So any history you have there can inform things that you're talking about Claude with that you pull from Quo. Because I know you mentioned it 4 times, Nadine, so I wanted to answer it for you.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a great one. There's also a question here from Bethany about if it is possible to have Claude pull key information from transcripts and have that added to that leads record in Salesforce automatically. Great question. So what you can do now is you can have Claude do that and add those to the contact in Quo, because there is that action that says update contact. Now, I almost feel like I'm reminding myself, I would imagine not yet. So the full thing is not possible yet, because we don't yet allow you to write that information from Quo to Salesforce. So that is my answer, but we are getting closer to that point. So half of this is possible, if that makes sense. question from Casey that I just came in. How real time is the information that Claude has access to? Can I ask it about a call that ended a few minutes ago? I would imagine yes. I would imagine yes. It pulls things pretty much real time. So maybe a qualifier on that is if you're pulling a transcript, transcripts sometimes take a little longer to generate. You can probably see it in the app. We're talking seconds. I don't think it's minutes. So if you're fetching transcripts, the transcript has to be there. That would be my answer. But I think call history, call log can be pulled right away. What else? What else? There is an interesting question from Daryna. I hope I'm saying your name right. I have definitions already for each reason that a guest does not book. Can I share those definitions and have it place each not booked call into the defined category? Absolutely. That's such a great idea, and also something that like makes all the work you do in Claude even more impactful, like because you can teach it about your business. So it would obviously do a better job categorizing things. So yes, you can just upload it similar to how I uploaded a call scoring rubric. You can upload this list of definitions, upload your rubric, upload information about your business. I think that that's another thing, right? Like if Claude knows a lot about your business and how your business works, it can do a better job analyzing calls as well. All right. There was a question to Chris from Clinton about, can you talk more about those setup costs that you just mentioned? I'm not sure what this refers to, but.
Yeah, I mean, we're using a max plan usually. So the cost is really $100, $200 a month to use Claude. And then you got per seat licenses for your team. Our team is on the $25 a month plan, and there's 10 people on there or something like that. So those are the basic costs. If you go beyond and you want to use the Claude API, then you're talking about real time costs. But really, most of this is accessible in the $20 a month, $25 a month team plan on Claude. You just get one operator in there to start poking around for $25. You probably won't hit your limits unless you're doing tons of workflows right out of the gate. But that should work for now.
Yeah. I have not hit my limits until I use code, right? Until I'm doing something like totally crazy, I'm struggling to hit the limits on on cowork. So, but listen, maybe people wanna go wild, so please do and tell us. There was a question that was interesting as well from Jessica about in the chat about whether Claude Quo would be able to know which calls are spam. In the instance that I want to pull data on how many calls we got for the day, we don't want to count the ones that aren't real, if that makes sense. Definitely makes sense. So one thing you can do is when you're setting up your task, right? You're setting up skills, tasks, sort of like any work you're doing in Claude, you can say you can actually have your own definition for what is a meaningful call. I think in one instance I had a definition of like anything over a minute is meaningful, because if the call is shorter than that, I don't know what kind of analysis you can even do on it. So yeah, I think that you can just set the requirement on the length. All right. All right. I did like one question that I think is maybe for you, Richard. I don't know if I don't know where I saw it, but I saw somewhere just a request to do more webinars with customers, business owners, showing how they use Quo. And if you guys want more, maybe let us know in the chat if you actually want this, because we can make it happen. And Richard is the person to make it happen. So just let him know.
Yes, let me know. So this is a good segue maybe for us to leave the Q&A. Now I know some questions have not been answered, which there are hundreds and hundreds of people in here. So we could sit here and talk all day, but I don't know if everybody wants that. But some things to know. One, there will be a follow-up email tomorrow from me. And it'll go to everyone who attended this. It'll go to people who registered and weren't here. This email will have a link to the recording so that you can watch this again or go to certain spots that was very valuable to you. There will be links to the resources that we talked about from Daryna and Chris that you can download. And this is also an opportunity if there was a question that you had that maybe you asked earlier that ultimately didn't get answered, you can send it to me. And either I will answer it or I will, if I don't know the answer, and my answer would be stupid, then I would ask someone else who knows. And they will give me the answer and I'll send it to you and you'll get a good answer to the question. But to what Daryna was saying as well, something that I'm really excited for us to do is highlight customers more and to have more like workflows and stories and information shared from customers, both in webinars and on our blog, which is going through a redesign right now that is going to soon have a lot more stuff from like advice from customers who have built their own businesses, obviously using tools like Quo and other tools that they'll be talking about too. So Chris is on there now. There's several stories from Chris on the blog. There's some stories from some other customers, and that's just going to start increasing in volume. And I say this because if you're someone who would potentially like to share your own stories and workflows and ways that you've built your business, when you get this email from me tomorrow, please reply and let's talk about it. Let's see what sort of stories you'd want to tell, because we can help. And you don't have to just write that yourself. We can help ghostwrite and edit and make things happen. We don't want to make this be a lot of work for you. We want to help you get things set up. So if you come and do a webinar or you write something where we're there with you, helping make sure it's good. So yes, those are some of my words for that.
Before we wrap, can I answer one question? Because I think that
Please.
there's a question in the chat about Sona and Claude. So first of all, great point. We could have, note for the future to cover more of Sona Claude use cases. But I think the one thing that I saw someone mention before is that really, I think like a huge use case here is that you can train Sona on great calls that you're having because Claude can identify like the best calls that you have in your workspace, and then take that and cross-reference it to with your Sona knowledge base, right? And then help you update that base in a way that would help Sona, answer calls better. So you basically have two AI agents interacting with each other and helping each other out, which is, kind of like a wild world we live in. But we should definitely, maybe talk more about that use case. So good feedback. And we have a Sona webinar that I think I linked above. And we will also maybe add this information to that webinar.
Yes.
And yes, Sona, Claude can generate material for Sona to learn. Absolutely. Claude will help Sona based on all the data in your workspace. And I know you might be also thinking like, cool, well, can Sona just figure this out? Obviously, we are working on a bunch of stuff, so stay tuned. Maybe soon Sona will just train itself, but let's just say that.
Well, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Daryna and Chris for this incredible webinar and incredible presentation from both of them. I'm just imagining the swelling applause from everybody's offices and homes happening right now through your computer. Again, thank you all for attending this. As I mentioned, follow-up emails will go out tomorrow. Look out for those. And please, if you do have questions or thoughts or suggestions, do not hold back to reply and send them. I will see them and we will implement them and take action on them. But thank you all so much for being here. We'll see you at our next webinar. Bye.
Everyone. Bye.